Welcome to the deep dive. So, today we're looking at small talk. Now, you might think that's pretty basic stuff, right?
Right.
But even if you're a really advanced English speaker, you're operating at maybe a C1 level, this can still feel, well, surprisingly tricky sometimes.
Absolutely. It's like you might be totally comfortable discussing complex ideas, no problem at all, but then suddenly making light conversation, that can feel like a whole different ballgame.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're not talking about beginner phrases here. We're really going deep into this often overlooked skill of small talk, specifically for advanced learners.
Thinking of it less as just chit-chat.
Yeah, let's chit-chat more like a sophisticated dance of social connection, Our mission today is really to unpack why it matters, give you some clear, actionable tips, and sort of illustrate its importance with real examples.
We want to help you get those aha moments right and feel more confident, less overwhelmed in those social situations.
Definitely. Less overwhelmed is the goal.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Why does small talk even matter? On the surface, it can seem a bit pointless.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because even though it seems light, small talk is actually the starting point. It's like the essential gateway to more meaningful communication.
A gateway. I like that.
Yeah, think of it like the warm-up act, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Before the main event, it sets the stage for all kinds of interactions in English. Casual chats, those crucial first few minutes in business meetings, all sorts.
Right, I can picture it. You walk into a networking event or maybe a new office or even just a party where you don't know many people. That silence can feel pretty heavy.
Super awkward, yeah. And small talk is what helps you just break through that.
Yeah.
It's like a polite way to acknowledge someone, see if they're open to chatting, and just start looking for anything you might have in common.
It signals you're approachable.
Exactly. Approachable, willing to engage, willing to connect. And that really smooths the way, from being complete strangers to maybe forming new connections.
And it's not just social, is it?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
In professional settings. That little bit of casual conversation at the start, it's often key for building rapport, building trust, before you even get down to the nitty-gritty business talk. It just helps create a much more positive dynamic.
Okay, key takeaway there. Small talk builds those initial connections and shows you're open to engaging.
Spot on.
Now, here's something interesting you touched on. It's not just the words, it's tied into cultural expectations.
Hugely. In many English-speaking places, especially, say, the U.S., U.K., Australia, it's a really deep-rooted part of just, being polite.
Right. Silence isn't always golden.
Not in those initial interactions, no.
Yeah.
Unless it's that comfortable silence you have with close friends.
Yeah.
Right. But otherwise, silence can sometimes be taken the wrong way, like you're disinterested or unfriendly, maybe even a bit rude.
Ouch.
Yeah. So small talk kind of steps in to bridge that gap. It shows you're present, you're engaged, you're, generally agreeable.
So for you listening, especially if you're at that C1 level, getting these subtle cultural signals is really vital. It's a big part of navigating things smoothly, avoiding misunderstandings, even if your grammar is perfect.
Totally. And just from a language learning angle, what's great is that small talk gives you this fantastic sort of low-pressure space to practice speaking spontaneously.
Ah, right. No big presentation looming.
Exactly. No complex argument to build. You can just focus on letting your language flow naturally.
It's like a fluency workout then.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Fluency workout. You're practicing quick responses without overthinking everything. You're actively listening for those little cues, using natural phrases that keep things moving, your anyways, your by the ways.
Getting those discourse markers in.
Yeah, and even weaving in some idioms. It's the bridge, really, linking the structured language you learn in books to the messy, fluid reality of actual conversations.
And honestly, even just managing a few minutes of successful small talk, that can be a real confidence booster. It shows you, hey, I can handle these real-world interactions.
Absolutely. Big confidence builder. Key takeaway. Small talk is a low-stakes way to practice fluency and build confidence.
Okay, let's make this more concrete. You mentioned an example earlier. Klaus.
Yes, Klaus. Okay, so Klaus was this brilliant German engineer working over in Silicon Valley. His formal English, impeccable, technically perfect. But the casual social side of things with his American colleagues completely baffled him.
Okay, so picture this. Lunchtime. Cafeteria. Klaus's colleagues are all chatting away the weather, baseball scores, what they did on the weekend. Stuff that to Klaus sounded like, pointless chatter.
Totally pointless in his view. Meanwhile, Klaus, being super efficient, right? He'd just grab his food, find a quiet corner, maybe catch up on emails. He genuinely didn't get the purpose of these like superficial exchanges.
And there's a cultural difference there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. His manager eventually had a quiet word with him, said, look, your work is fantastic, but you're not really connecting with the team outside of the specific project stuff. And she pointed out that actually a lot of the team bonding, even some informal problem solving, happened during those casual chats. It helped build trust, better working relationships.
And Klaus was genuinely confused.
Completely puzzled. He actually asked something like, but the temperature, what is the point? It is a fact. It needs no discussion, which is, logically sound from his perspective.
Right, but missing the social point.
Exactly. His manager very wisely explained it wasn't about the information itself, the weather forecast. It was about finding common ground, showing a bit of interest in other people, just creating a relaxed, comfortable atmosphere. And that is the foundation for building relationships.
So it's about adapting then, learning the unwritten rules.
Yes. And Klaus, being smart and determined, he started observing. He watched his colleagues, noticed how they asked about weekends, shared little stories, commented on things they'd both experienced, like the awful commute.
So he started trying it.
He did. Started small, learned to ask any exciting plans for the weekend, or maybe, wow, the traffic was brutal this morning, wasn't it? And crucially, he started listening more actively, asking follow-up questions, like, oh, you went hiking. Which trail was that?
Must have felt a bit awkward at first.
Oh, I'm sure it did. A bit stilted, maybe. But slowly, he started getting the hang of it. And he began to see that this pointless chatter, well, it wasn't pointless at all. It was actually vital for building team cohesion.
And things changed for him.
They really did. Colleagues started approaching him more, not just about work, more casual chats. He found himself laughing more, feeling, actually part of the team. And get this, sometimes those informal chats even sparked creative ideas for technical problems.
Wow, okay. So, linking back, Klaus's story really shows it, doesn't it? His formal English was perfect, but mastering this seemingly small thing, small talk, that's what truly unlocked his professional life, his personal connections there.
Precisely. Key takeaway. Mastering small talk can lead to better professional and personal integration.
Okay, so we get why it's important, but the million-dollar question is always, what do you actually talk about? How do you kick off these conversations without sounding weird or, stepping on any toes?
Exactly. That's the tricky bit, isn't it? Knowing what's generally safe and engaging and what to maybe steer clear of, especially for C1 learners aiming for that smooth interaction.
Right. Let's start with the safe bets, your go-to topics. First up, everyone's favorite, the weather.
The classic.
But maybe go beyond just, it's hot, right? Add a little something personal, like, wow, this sudden heat wave is quite something, isn't it? Makes me just want to hide indoors with the AC.
Or, I can't believe how much rain we've had this week. Has it been messing up your commute at all? See how that invites a shared experience?
Yeah, it turns a statement into a question, basically. Okay, what else? Current events?
Current events, yes. But, and this is important, stick to general, non-controversial stuff. Think neutral news. Maybe. Did you happen to see that article about the latest AI breakthroughs? Pretty fascinating. Or if there's a local sports team everyone follows. Been quite a week for the team name, hasn't it?
But definitely avoid.
Oh, yeah. Explicitly avoid politics, religion, anything really divisive. Unless that's the specific context, just don't go there for small talk. Key takeaway. Start with safe, shared, and non-controversial topics.
Got it. Travel, that seems pretty universal.
Travel's usually a great one. Most people enjoy talking about trips, past or future. You could ask, had any interesting trips lately? Or maybe, I remember you mentioned you're from country originally. Have you been back recently?
Or even planning something. I'm thinking of going to country next year. Have you ever been? That opens the door for stories.
Definitely. And then there are hobbies and interests. This might need a bit more sort of gentle probing.
I mean?
Well, start broad. Open-ended questions. What sort of things do you enjoy doing when you have free time? Or are you into any particular sports? Do you get much chance to, read or watch movies, listen to music?
And if you hit on something.
If you find something in common, bingo. That's your cue to dig a little deeper. Oh, you play chess. Wow. Ever played in any tournaments?
Compliments can work too, right? But need to be careful there.
Yes, careful is the word. They need to be genuine, specific, and appropriate. So maybe not just nice shirt. Try something skill-based or insight-based, like, that was a really insightful point you made back there in the meeting.
Or about an object.
Yeah, if you genuinely like something. I really love your watch, it's very striking. Or, that's a great scarf. But generally, be cautious with comments directly on personal appearance. It can be misconstrued sometimes.
Okay. Food and drink, usually safe.
Very safe. Pretty universal. Have you tried the pasta here? It's delicious. Or, what's your favorite kind of coffee? Always looking for good restaurant tips around here. Got any favorites? Easy conversation starters.
And the easiest of all, perhaps, just talking about where you are.
The immediate environment. Absolutely. It's the ultimate shared context. This conference has been really well put together, don't you think? Or, wow, this is a great venue for the party. How are you finding the atmosphere? What brought you along to this particular event? Super easy way in.
Okay, so that's the what to talk about. Just as crucial, though, is knowing what not to talk about, especially aiming for that C1 level of social awareness. Let's talk tricky topics.
Right. Knowing what to avoid is key for keeping things positive. Okay, number 1. We mentioned it. Politics and religion. Unless you're absolutely sure it's appropriate for that specific setting, just steer clear. Too personal, too divisive potential.
Definitely. And money. Talking about cash.
Generally, no. Asking about salary, how much someone earns, how much something costs them, that's usually considered pretty intrusive in, say, the UK or US. Maybe less so in other cultures, but for general English small talk, best avoid it.
Health issue.
Tread carefully. Fine to ask, how are you doing? But avoid digging into details about illnesses, unless the other person brings it up and seems very open to discussing it. Keep it light.
And personal appearance comments, beyond a general compliment on clothes or something.
Yeah, best to avoid anything too specific about someone's body, weight, age. Stick to admiring an item or a skill, like we said.
And obviously, taboo subjects, things that are just generally uncomfortable.
Right. Avoid excessive negativity, personal complaints, gossip, anything that might make people feel judged or awkward. And finally, try not to get too personal too quickly. Asking about marital status or kids right at the start can feel a bit abrupt. Let the conversation flow there naturally if it does. Key takeaway: be mindful of culturally sensitive and personal topics to avoid. Okay, so for you C1 learners listening, moving beyond just the basics of small talk, that's where you really show your advanced skills. It shouldn't sound too, simplistic.
Absolutely. Adding depth. How? Open-ended questions are a big one, right?
Huge. Get away from those simple yes-no questions. Instead of, did you have a good weekend? Try, so what was the highlight of your weekend? Or how did you end up spending your weekend? It just invites a much richer answer.
And then you need to actually listen to the answer.
Yes, crucial step. Really listen. And then ask a relevant follow-up question that shows you're genuinely engaged. If they say they went to an art gallery, don't just nod. Ask, oh, cool, what kind of art did they have? Anything catch your eye?
Makes sense. And sharing a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, don't be afraid to show brief, relevant personal anecdotes. Keyword, brief. You don't want to hijack the conversation. But if they talk about a travel mishap and you had a funny one, maybe share it quickly.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I had something similar happen when I was in Spain last year.
And showing you're interested nonverbally, too. Massively important. Your tone of voice, making eye contact, not staring, but connecting your body language, leaning in slightly maybe, nodding, using those little verbal cues like, right, oh, interesting. They make a huge difference in showing you're actually listening and interested. Key takeaway: use open-ended and follow-up questions and share brief, relevant anecdotes to deepen conversation.
Let's bring this alive with another story. This one's about Hiroshi, the architect of conversation.
Hiroshi. Right, so Hiroshi was this highly respected Japanese architect attending a big international conference in London. Fantastic architect, very knowledgeable. His grammatical English was strong, but he found navigating that spontaneous social chat during coffee breaks quite difficult. The flow felt off to him.
So what did he do?
Well, what's interesting is his approach. He observed. He noticed how other people seemed to just effortlessly start chatting, commenting on the venue, the talks, even the quality of the coffee.
He studied it like an architectural problem.
Exactly. Being the meticulous architect he was, Hiroshi started preparing. Before a break, he'd actually mentally list a few open-ended questions related to the conference themes, or maybe some observations about the building they were in.
Okay, so he had a plan. How did it work out?
Well, during one break, he saw a small group discussing a presentation they'd just seen. Instead of jumping straight into the technical stuff, he started with a really subtle observation about their shared surroundings. He said something like, I was quite impressed by the acoustics in the main hall during that last session. Designing for such a large space, it's quite a challenge, isn't it?
Ah, clever. Specific, neutral, shared experience.
Precisely. Found that common ground. And one of the architects, an American guy, responded really positively, asked Hiroshi if he had experience with similar large project.
And that was his in.
That was his in. He shared a brief, relevant story about a project he'd done, kept it concise, didn't dominate, and then really smoothly, he pivoted the conversation towards a professional topic using an open-ended question. And what aspects of sustainable design are you focusing on most in your work right now?
Boom. Conversation flowing.
Exactly. And that was Hiroshi's aha moment. He realized small talk wasn't just random chatter. It was about finding that shared context, that common ground, and using it as a springboard.
Like laying a foundation.
Just like laying a foundation. By noticing his surroundings using specific, non-intrusive observations about the shared environment, he could effectively architect a connection, building a bridge to more substantial, meaningful discussions.
So his small talk became as precise as his designs.
You could say that. It became effective. It built bridges with words, felt natural, and led to much deeper engagement. Key takeaway: use shared context and observations about the immediate environment to initiate conversation.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the whatnot. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts, the mechanics of really mastering small talk. Moving from that first awkward hello to a smooth flowing conversation.
Exactly. Because mastering it isn't just about knowing topics, it's about active participation, using those subtle communication skills. And a massive part of that is active listening and observing. You really can't contribute well if you're not paying attention.
Right. Listening for keywords, yeah. Things people mention, hobbies, interests. Even their tone of voice can give you hints about where to go next. Did they sound excited talking about their dog? Or maybe tired when mentioning work?
Spot on. And don't forget the nonverbals. What's their body language telling you? Are they leaning in, looking open and relaxed? Or are their arms crossed, looking away? Are they making eye contact, smiling? These are all clues about how engaged they are.
And maybe try to match their energy a bit, without mimicking.
Yeah, match the energy. Good point. And a really simple but powerful tip. Try to remember someone's name, using their name occasionally, and remembering a small detail they shared earlier. It really shows you value the interaction, makes people feel heard.
Okay, questioning techniques. For C1 level, we want to go beyond the basics. Remind us about open-ended questions.
Always worth repeating. They're invaluable. Instead of, do you like your job? Try, what aspects of your work do you find most rewarding? Instead of, did you enjoy your trip? Maybe what were some of the highlights of your trip? They just open things up.
And follow-up questions. The why and how.
So important. They show you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're actually curious. Well, that sounds interesting. Why did you decide to go into that field? Or how did you first get into painting? It encourages them to elaborate.
And what if you don't quite catch something? Is it okay to ask?
Totally okay. In fact, politely rephrasing or asking for clarification shows you are engaged and want to understand. Something like, so if I'm understanding correctly, you mean, or sorry, could you clarify what you meant by, much better than just nodding along confused.
Okay, now contributing yourself. It's a two-way street, right?
Absolutely. Don't just interview them. Offer your own brief, relevant thoughts. Connect what they say to your own experience sometimes. Oh, that reminds me of, or I had a similar experience when...
Using I statements.
Yeah, good practice. Express your feelings or opinions without making them sound like facts. I found that talk really interesting rather than, that talk was interesting. Or, I'm really enjoying the sunshine. It's less assertive, more conversational.
And building on what they say.
Shows respect, shows you're thinking along with them. That's a great point, and it makes me think about, or, I hadn't actually looked at it that way before. And for that C1 nuance, don't forget those hedges and softeners.
Like perhaps, or it seems.
Exactly. I suppose it seems to me, perhaps, it might be that. They just add that layer of politeness, make opinions sound less forceful, and weave in those discourse markers naturally. Anyway, by the way, so going back to what you said earlier, they keep the conversation flowing. Key takeaway: practice active listening, use open-ended and follow-up questions, and contribute relevant insights.
Okay, flow management. Knowing how to keep it going, switch topics smoothly, and crucially, how to get out gracefully. That's an art form in itself.
It really is. Use transition phrases when you want to gently shift gears. Speaking of travel, have you ever been to Italy? Or, that's interesting. By the way, did you hear about Well, on a slightly different note, smooth transitions are key.
And the exit strategy.
Have a few polite exit lines ready. Well, it was really lovely chatting with you. I should probably go and grab another coffee, say hi to Sarah. If they're in a group, I'll let you get back to your conversation. Great talking. Maybe even suggest continuing later, if appropriate.
And if someone brings up a topic you really want to avoid, that parking lot idea.
Yeah, the parking lot, acknowledge it briefly, but gently suggest maybe it's not the right time or place. That's a big topic. Maybe we could chat about that another time. Deflects politely.
Nonverbals, again, just quickly remind us, super important.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Your body language speaks volumes. Eye contact natural, intermittent in most Western cultures, but be observant. Open body language, face them, arms uncrossed. Smiling and nodding show warmth and engagement. And be mindful of personal space, usually about arm's length is comfortable.
And finally, practice makes perfect, or at least better.
Definitely better. Like any skill, it improves with practice. Maybe mentally rehearse a couple of opening lines before an event. Have a few go-to open-ended questions in your back pocket. Learn some common idioms like, how's it going? Or what have you been up to?
And don't be afraid to mess up occasionally.
Please don't. It happens to everyone. Be able to laugh at yourself. A lighthearted, excuse my English, can work wonders. And appreciating others' jokes helps build rapport too. Key takeaway. Pay attention to nonverbal cues and practice initiating and ending conversations gracefully. Which brings us nicely to our final story, Diego and the power of shared vulnerability.
Okay, Diego.
Diego is this brilliant Argentinian doctor at a medical conference in Boston, top of his field. But he felt a bit, uncomfortable with what he saw as the kind of superficial nature of a lot of the small talk.
He wasn't wrong. Sometimes it is.
Right. But what he observed was interesting. He noticed that while people started with polite surface stuff, the interactions that seemed to really stark, where a real connection happened, often involved someone sharing something small, relatable, and just a tiny bit vulnerable.
Vulnerable how? Not like deep secrets.
No, not deep secrets, just a touch of shared humanity, a minor frustration, a relatable observation, like admitting you're finding the conference overwhelming or you missed the coffee from back home.
Ah, okay. Showing you're human.
Exactly that. So, inspired, Diego decided to try it. During a coffee break, he went up to a British colleague he barely knew, said hello, and then said something like, I have to admit, I'm still getting used to the coffee here. I really miss my strong Argentinian espresso. How are you finding the coffee situation?
Bold move, commenting on the conference coffee.
Risky, maybe, but it worked. The British doctor laughed, totally related, made a joke about the American drip coffee, and suddenly that small, shared, slightly negative but relatable observation created an instant connection.
And they talked more.
Yeah, they ended up chatting about coffee culture in different countries, which led to travel, which led to talking about some of the challenges in their medical fields. It flowed naturally from that tiny moment of shared, relatable vulnerability.
So Diego's big realization.
His key takeaway was that small talk wasn't about being perfectly polished or overly formal. It was about being human. Sharing those brief, relatable, maybe slightly humorous personal observations, or mentioning a shared minor challenge that could actually break down the formality and create a genuine bond much faster.
It bypassed the superficial layer.
Exactly. It made his small talk feel authentic and effective, and led to much more genuine connections, professionally and personally. Key takeaway. Sharing small, relatable vulnerabilities can build stronger connections.
So, bringing it all together for our C1 listeners, what's the C1 edge here? What makes advanced small talk different?
I think for C1 learners, it's really about injecting your personality and moving beyond just the mechanical exchange of information.
Going off script.
Yeah, exactly. While having a few openers is fine, try not to sound robotic. Let the conversation flow. Be present. Respond authentically to what the other person says. Don't be afraid to use your own sense of humor. Maybe a bit of lighthearted self-deprecation if that's your style. Authenticity really shines through.
And using your advanced language skills to adapt.
Definitely. Your C1 level means you can adjust your vocabulary, your tone for different situations. More formal for a business dinner, more casual for a pub chat. That adaptability is key.
And being genuinely interested.
Crucial. Cultivate genuine curiosity. Ask questions because you actually want to know the answer, not just because you're supposed to fill the silence. People can usually tell if you're genuinely interested.
And see it as a learning process.
Always. Small talk is something you constantly refine. Reflect afterwards. What went well? What felt awkward? Could I have asked a better question there? Did I hear any new phrases I could use next time? Continuous improvement.
So to wrap up then, small talk, far from being trivial, it's actually a cornerstone, isn't it, for effective communication, social integration in English?
Absolutely. And for you C1 learners listening, mastering this often underrated skill, it goes way beyond just grammar and vocab. It unlocks your ability to build rapport, navigate cultures smoothly, and just project confidence wherever you are.
Think about Klaus bridging those cultural gaps, Hiroshi architecting connections, Diego finding power in being relatable. You can harness this unseen language, too.
By knowing the safe topics, avoiding the pitfalls, practicing active listening, asking good questions, contributing authentically, you can turn small talk from something maybe stressful into a really valuable tool.
See it as your daily fluency gym.
I love that. Your daily fluency gym. Low pressure practice for spontaneity, for listening, for letting your personality come through. Because it's often in these seemingly small, insignificant exchanges.
But the most significant connections are actually forged.
Exactly. Allowing your fluent, confident English voice to really be heard and your presence to be truly felt.